What's going on, guys? B. Scott here with you on today's show. We got your running back sit starts heading in to week number 11. I'm going to roll through a lot of running backs, tell you the obvious must starts, but then I got a few guys I think you should get in your lineups this week, and then a few guys you should probably be sitting down. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the First Four Downs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going through your running back sit starts ahead of week number 11. We're almost to the championships. It's time to make that final playoff push, and we got to get the win, plain and simple. So let's get right to the content. But before we get into it, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then comment. If there's a running back I don't mention, because I'm not mentioning all of them, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice. Start, sit, trade, flex, whatever you want to ask. I'll give you my advice to the best of my knowledge to help you heading into week 11. So let's start. I like to start it with the must-start running backs, guys that you're going to be starting anyway. I like to just mention them. So first off, Jonathan Taylor at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo giving up fewest fantasy points to the running back position, but you're starting Jonathan Taylor. He's been outstanding. Very tough matchup, but you're going to be playing him. Austin Eckler, also a tough matchup, and he just hasn't been getting it done on the ground as effectively, but they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. He should do okay. He sees enough passing work. It's irrelevant anyway. You're starting him. Najee Harris has been outstanding. He's at the Los Angeles Chargers. They've given up, I want to say, bottom 5 to the fantasy position for running backs, so you're starting Najee Harris anyway. No, set and forget it. Joe Mixon, great spot here against the Las Vegas Raiders. They've been giving up a ton of fantasy points to the running backs as well. You saw Darrell Williams last week, 9 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. So Joe Mixon, get him in your lineups. Zeke Elliott at the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to start Zeke Elliott. You got to roll with it. On top of that, this is a potential shootout game. There could be a lot of points to be had. You got to get Zeke in your lineups. Alvin Kamara at the Philadelphia Eagles, barring health. Obviously missed last week. If he plays, you got to play him. Philadelphia has been susceptible to the running back position. And if he's out, I'm going to be starting Mark Ingram. So the next guy you should be starting, Dalvin Cook, playing Green Bay Packers, set it and forget it. You drafted him as high as you did. You're playing him no matter what. James Conner, I like him this week at the Seattle Seahawks. Should bounce back here. Arizona overall played very poorly last week. Don't get me wrong, they played the Carolina defense. It's been playing very well. But I like him to bounce back here against Seattle defense that's middle of the pack. But if Kyler gets back in that lineup, that's just going to help that offense as a whole, and James Conner should see a ton of work. So DeAndre Swift at the Cleveland Browns, honestly saw, something close to 30 touches last week. Incredible usage, and you could see that once again. Jamal Williams looking to come back this week. We'll see if he can get into the lineups, probably be mixed and matched, but DeAndre Swift's been great. The usage is huge, so you got to be playing him. Leonard Fournette playing the New York Giants should bounce back here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers really struggled last week, and he's still leading that backfield by a big margin on the touch rate. So Leonard Fournette, an obvious start for me on a weekly basis. Nick Chubb playing the Detroit Lions, smash bot. He is on the COVID list still. As long as he gets cleared, he's a must-start running back. Could potentially be a top 5 guy this week. James Robinson playing the San Francisco 49ers. If he's healthy, dealing with the heel injury, knee injury now, new news, but he was limited practice today in Thursday's game. If he plays, I like him against the Niners. If he doesn't play, I like Carlos Hyde against the Niners, either or, if James Robinson were to miss. So, and then CMC playing the Washington football team. It's Christian McCaffrey, man. He's seeing outrageous usage. Once again, you see the pass work. I'm worried about the limited red zone work with Cam Newton, potentially stealing some touchdowns there. But CMC's one of the few running backs that can give you 20 fantasy points without a touchdown. So great spot here against the Washington football team. So let's start with some of the guys I think you should just be getting in your lineups this week, especially with some huge usage rates and obviously some great matchups. So first off, A.J. Dillon. He's playing the Minnesota Vikings this week. 23 touches last week. No Aaron Jones. 21 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not necessarily an efficient day, but the 2 touchdowns help. Minnesota, 11th most fantasy points to the running back position, allowing 4.5 yards per carry to running backs. And back-to-back games, Minnesota's given up 2 touchdowns to running backs. So I like A.J. Dillon this week to see a huge usage rate. And to be honest, A.J. Dillon's been running pretty hard, pretty decent, and he's seeing a lot more receiving work, which is great to see. That was the worry coming into the season, whether he was going to be able to, get those receptions. Stepping in as that RB2 role, where Jamal Williams, was he going to be able to fill it? And over the last few weeks, he's been getting it done with, 2 to 3 receptions per game. So I like a huge, heavy workload here. And there was talks even the backup for A.J. Dillon they might be pulling guys off the practice squad and vice versa. So I think A.J. Dillon's going to just see huge usage in this game. You got to get him in your lineups. Potential top 12 running back this week. Another guy like MYLES GASKIN at the New York Jets. It's the New York Jets. MYLES GASKIN has not been effective over the last 3 or 4 weeks, averaging, I want to say, 2.3 yards per carry. Something terrible. Not very good, but he's still seeing huge usage, and he's playing the New York Jets. Allowed 17 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's 5 more rushing touchdowns than the next closest team. That's in 9 games. So they've given up, on average, almost 2 rushing touchdowns per game. That's insane. And they've allowed 20 total touchdowns to the running back position. And Gaskin, 12 plus carries in 4 straight games. He has upside for 15 to 18 touches in this game, and Miami's been playing very well. I could see them leading in this game, and Gaskin could see 15 to 20 carries. So, yes, he hasn't been getting it done with the receiving work that we've hoped. I want to say 8 or 10 receptions just over the last 3 weeks, but I think this is just a huge spot, a get-right game for Gaskin. Now, yes, is he an explosive player that's going to see 100, 150 yards? More than likely not, but the Jets are so bad against the running back position, you got to get Gaskin in your lineup. Especially if he's a flex type option for you. Get him in your lineups. Another guy like Darrell Williams playing the Dallas Cowboys. Now, yes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's talks he might return. They might just hold him out. In my opinion, they should just hold him out through the bye week to get him absolutely fully healthy. And Darrell Williams saw 9 receptions last week for 101 yards and a touchdown. I don't think I've ever seen CEH get 9 receptions in a game. And now you got Darrell Williams doing it. It's pretty crazy. Dallas is a tougher defense, has allowed just 5 touchdowns to the running backs on the season, but they've allowed 4.5 yards per carry. So, yes, Dallas has really been blowing teams away and not allowing them to establish that run game. And Darrell Williams hasn't necessarily been effective running the football last week. 11 carries for 43 yards, but he did have the big receiving game. And I think he's just going to see enough usage in this game that you got to get him in your lineups. 21 receptions over his last 4 games for Darrell Williams. Nearly 17 touches per game, and a running back like that in a high-powered offense, in a potential shootout. I like Darrell Williams this week. Even though it's a little bit tougher on the running back side, I still like it with the matchup being just projected so many points. It should be a good day for Darrell Williams, so get him in your lineups. And then Michael Carter, my last must-start of the week. He's playing the Miami Dolphins on the flip side. The usage is key here, averaging 14 carries per game over his last 4 games, 19 touches nearly. Since week 7, for Michael Carter, he's just dominating the touches, and you've seen it last week. You see Tevin Coleman, his first game back, and Carter still dominated the carries, 16 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown, still saw 4 receptions for 43 yards. That's 20 touches with Tevin Coleman back in the lineup. So I love Michael Carter this week. Miami Dolphins defense been playing very, very well. Don't get me wrong, especially the more recent past, but I like it even in garbage time here. They just continue to push and press. The New York Jets do. Now, yes, Joe Flacco is going to be under center. We'll see if that really affects the short passing game. We know Joe Flacco is kind of an air-and-out type of quarterback, but he hasn't started a game in very long. We'll have to see what the game plan looks like, but I like Michael Carter. Even in garbage time, he should see a lot of work here, so you got to have him in your lineups. Now, on to some players that I don't like this week, some guys that I'd be sitting. First off, Alex Collins. At this point, I don't think I can trust him as a starter going forward. He's just not seeing any usage in the pass game. And on top of that, he's splitting early down work. And he's been banged up a little bit. So, and obviously, it doesn't look like Chris Carson's going to be back this week. He missed practice once again Wednesday. They're saying it's not looking good. So, I don't love Alex Collins against the Arizona Cardinals. Tough defense. Arizona, 7th fewest fantasy points to the running back position, the fewest touchdowns to running backs at just 3 total touchdowns on the season to running backs. And Alex Collins, back-to-back games, just 10 carries for roughly 40 yards, 3 straight games under 6 fantasy points. And like I mentioned, no receiving work. He lost it last week to Travis Homer. I don't love the matchup here. And if Kyler's back, you could see a shootout potential type of game here. The whole Seattle offense has really struggled. Russell Wilson, I get it, might have been a little rusty, but I just don't love Alex Collins, so he's a sit for me this week. Now on to all the Bills running backs. I can't start them against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts defense, especially the front, is very, very good against the running back position. 3rd fewest fantasy points to the running back position, allowing less than 4 yards per carry to running backs. And now, you saw Matt Breida with 2 touchdowns last week. You got lucky that every Bills running back found the end zone once again against this New York Jets terrible defense. But I don't love the matchup here. The Colts have played very, very well, especially against the running back position. The game script could be potentially neutral here. And zero running back has cleared 70 rushing yards since week 7 on this Indianapolis Colts team. And it's going to be a mix and match. Now, you want to take a dart throw and start Devin Singletary, I understand. But you saw it last week, Matt Breida with 2 touchdowns. Zach Moss finds the end zone, but a short yardage, doesn't get a ton of yards, doesn't get a ton of volume. Devin Singletary leads that backfield, but what, 7 carries, I want to say, and he does find the end zone. So I just don't love the matchup this week. I think Josh Allen's going to be able to exploit the secondary of the Indianapolis Colts. So for me, all these running backs are a sit. If you want to take a chance, I would do it with Devin Singletary just for the receiving upside, hopefully. But I still don't love the running backs, so I'm sitting all of them this week. Jordan Howard versus the New Orleans Saints. Now, yes, he's been resurrected, been playing pretty decently. 3 touchdowns in his first 2 games last week. 0 touchdowns. He had the 83 yards on just 12 carries. But at this point, he's touchdown dependent to fill that RB2 spot for you. And New Orleans Saints are very good against the running back position. Second fewest fantasy points to the running backs, just 4 rushing touchdowns allowed, and 0 rushing touchdowns allowed since week 5 to the running back position. They give up the fewest yards per game on average, just 54 yards per game. And that's at 2.8 yards per carry to the running back position. So Jordan Howard with 0 receptions on the season, and potentially Miles Sanders being activated this week to come back to practice. We'll see if he actually plays, but I just don't love the matchup here. I think Jordan Howard has to find the end zone to get his value, and I just don't see it. And if Miles Sanders is to be on that field, I still just don't love it with the time split. Jordan Howard's not dominating the touches. 12 carries last week. Boston Scott's still mixing and matching at this point, and I need a touchdown to get you to 10 points this week, especially for me, and I don't love it. So Jordan Howard, he's a sit for me this week. And my last sit of the week, it's going to be Devonta Freeman. He's at the Chicago Bears. Coming off game, 10 carries, 35 yards. They struggled to move the ball against Miami, Baltimore as a whole. Now, obviously, they cut Le'Veon Bell. Latavius Murray, there's hopes that he's coming back. He was limited in practice, I want to say Wednesday, so there's hopes that he's going to be back and ready to go. And if they do, you're looking at a full-time split in which you need Freeman to find the end zone in this one. And I just don't love the matchup. I think Lamar Jackson's going to dominate against that Chicago secondary. Chicago secondary has really, really struggled, giving up a lot of points through the air. So I just don't love the matchup. Chicago held Najee Harris just last week, 22 carries for 62 yards. Once again, Devonta Freeman's going to need a touchdown this week to get his value, and I just don't love it. Now, yes, he's getting a couple of receptions, averaging, I want to say 2 or 3 receptions over his last 3 games, but I just think that Lamar Jackson's going to exploit that secondary of Chicago. So Devonta Freeman this week for me is a sit. So that's it. That's my running back sit starts heading in to week number 11. Once again, I didn't mention all the running backs. So if you have a running back you want to ask a question about, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice. And while you're there, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share thumb bell for all your start sit information, all your fantasy information, NFL related. You want to talk just football, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my opinions and my advice on any questions. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.